And as I'm looking back in hindsight, that is where the certainty comes in for me. Because I'm going to pretend to be
Depends what you
Christian.
mean as a practice, because also, thou shalt not put thy Lord to the test. Yeah, that's fine.
And then you start walking it out. Like you've never you can't even bring yourself to do that. Is what I'm asking you.
Again, it depends what you mean by walking it out, because I have
going to church, reading, praying, confession. Like I'm just giving you the basics of the Christian.
So Ruslan presses Alex O'Connor on the idea of trying out Jesus, kind of in that way. And his answer might shock you. So let's get right into it. Shout out to Ruslan and Alex O'Connor.
It almost seems like you want to believe, you wish it were true. Is that fair language to ascribe to you?
I think that's true of the New Testament. I think that's true of the person of Jesus and his historical significance as the Son of God. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. I don't think that's true of the Hebrew Bible. I'm not sure that's true of some of the later additions to the Christian doctrine.
Okay. So let me present this theory to you, and you tell me if you like it, you could hate it. Mm-hmm. So when I think of faith, right? Like I don't think faith as something that is necessarily binary. I don't think faith is certain.
I think it's interesting how he likes Jesus. He wishes Jesus was true, but not necessarily the God of the Old Testament. Mostly because he thinks God endorses slavery and God endorses genocide. I still don't get that in the Bible. There's things in the Bible like that. That doesn't mean God endorses it. But let's continue. Let's listen to Ruslan example.
When I think of faith as trust or confidence in, right? And so if I'm looking for something that I want, I have to have a degree of confidence in it and then apply it. Meaning that Jesus said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can say this mountain move, right? And so if I'm looking at something that I want to accomplish, I want to get into more physically better shape. I want to get shredded, right? And my friend who's in good shape, he's a trainer, he's telling me, hey, Ruslan, like, you got to cut out the processed food. You got to eat more chicken. Got to eat more broccoli, right? You got to eat, and you got to go strength training to do these things. Now, that on the surface sounds like a terrible idea. I got to eat more broccoli. I got to eat more chicken. I got to lift heavy things. I got to do hard. None of this sounds fun. But I have enough faith, Alex. I got just enough faith that, well, you know what? He has the abs and he has the physique, and it seems like he's gotten the results that I want. So my little bit of faith, I start applying the information that I have available to me, eating the chicken, eating the broccoli, doing my compound lifts, overhead press, bench press, pull up, deadlift, squat, and I start programming. Yeah. I start programming my workout. And then all of a sudden what happens is I do that long enough. Some people do 75 hard, other people commit to a very long time. And then in hindsight, I look back and 6 months later, 12 months later, 3 months later, all of a sudden, Alex, I have abs. All of a sudden, there's a physical transformation that's happened to my body, and I'm pumped. I'm like, man, this is great. So now I'm on the other side of it. I had enough faith to say, I think there's something to this. He seems to have what I want. It seems to make sense on paper, but I'm not sure because chicken and broccoli and lifting sounds terrible. And I walk through the process. Now I'm on the other side of the process, and I've applied the process. And I've done this multiple times. I've done the transformation thing. And as I'm looking back in hindsight, that is where the certainty comes in for me.
For me, it makes a lot of sense because I love exercising. I'm doing it every day. I'm waking up. As soon as I wake up, I go to the gym. After that, I read the Bible and pray. It gets me ready for the day. I feel just awful or weird if I don't get steps in, if I don't exercise. And even for me, I like to count calories because I know if I stick to a certain amount of calories and stay underneath the amount of calories that I use, then I'm not going to gain weight. And for the same thing, I guess, with faith in Christianity, maybe you just don't know what it's like until you try it. I guess that's what he's trying to say. I think what he's trying to get at is, this is what I think Ruslan is trying to say. You see the amazing benefits of a Christian who decided to repent, surrender their life to Jesus, and the amazing transformation. They were once living this way of life, completely living in debauchery or sin or just not fulfilled and seemingly purposeless. And then after living for Jesus and having the result of spending time with him and allowing God to transform their life, and you see the benefits and they're like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. But for someone who hasn't experienced the love of Jesus or experienced Christ's transformation in their life, then they're never going to know. So what I think that's what he's trying to get at. You might be surprised at Alex's response here.
There's nothing no one can tell me that's going to be contrary. Even if you gave me the best pitch for veganism, I'm going to be like, bro, chicken and broccoli works. I know it works.
Sure.
I know it works. I've applied it. I've lived it. I've did the bench press. I've did the squat. I've did the programming. It works. I got the results. And I know how to walk through this process and to get the said results based on the little bit of confidence that I had that what my friend was telling me was true and not a lie. Now, I'm not trying to parallel this to salvation in Jesus. I'm not trying to say that this is about the gospel. I'm just presenting you an idea that if you want to believe, have you ever thought about practicing as a Christian, going to church, doing the thing with a little bit of faith? I feel like you might, Alex, you might have enough confidence that maybe there's this mystery of the resurrection. It just may be true. That if you were to start actually practicing the Christian disciplines of church, worship, liturgy, confession, Bible study, that perhaps you walk through that for 6 months, you walk through that for a year, and then you look back in hindsight and you go, man, there's something transformative to this thing. And I still have questions and there's still mysteries, but there's something transformative to this. It is Jesus thing, to Jesus living the life I couldn't live, dying to death I should have died on the cross in my place for my sins, rising on the third day, giving me a new heart, and giving me an ability to usher in heaven and goodness and beauty on this side of eternity. Have you ever explored actually applying that and walking it out, and then saying, well, let me test and see? And how do you like that version of faith, by the way? Because this is a very Jordan Peterson, very pragmatic version of faith.
When you say that what your friend said is true, you either mean it's true that by eating those foods and doing the weight training, you're going to get the physique, or you mean it's true that you're going to like it. Those are two different things, right? And I'm not sure exactly which it was.
I probably will hate it. I'll hate it. Yeah, I hated it at first.
So as in that you'll like it when it's done, like you'll like the life that it leads to.
I like the way it feels after a week of no sugar. I like the way it feels after a month of strength training.
The way you say, like, oh, I'm not sure if I believe my friend, but then I try it. It's like, well, I know for a fact that if you are in a calorie surplus and you weight train, you put on weight. If you're in a calorie detriment, or whatever the word is, deficit, and if you're just in a calorie deficit, forget the weight training, you lose weight. Like, that is just a fact. That's true.
Obviously, that wasn't the question. You're trying to look for a result, especially if you're overweight and this is causing you to have heart failure or problems with your cardiovascular health. Whether or not you like it or not, you need to do it if you're going to survive. And some people just can't have a concept. Eating less means you'll gain less weight, essentially. And that's why it's important to figure out which foods have less calories in, so you don't have to worry about still feeling completely hungry after eating. But yeah, I think that's interesting how he said, well, do I like it? Not necessarily. I mean, following Jesus is not going to be easy. Christ doesn't say it's going to be easy, but it's the most fulfilling life. And
you don't need to experience it to know that that's true. It's just demonstrable. To know whether you would prefer a certain kind of physique, like that's a totally different kind of thing. And I understand that you're not going to know that until you've actually done it. Unfortunately, I think that like the equivalent of like eating your broccoli and your chicken with religion are things which are sometimes kind of conceptually impossible. So prayer is quite important to a Christian lifestyle. And I think that in many ways, depending on the kind of person you are, prayer can be conceptually impossible if you don't already believe in God, because you can like go through the motions, but a Christian can do that too, and they wouldn't properly be praying because they're not actually talking to God. They're just saying words, right? You need to actually believe in some sense that you're communing with God. And try as I might, I cannot muster that kind of even like temporary trial belief.
I think you could pray all the time and not necessarily know 100% if God is real. Like, that's a lot of just crying out to God. Why is this happening? I think people pray a lot in a way.
But a Christian can do that too, and they wouldn't properly be praying because they're not actually talking to God. They're just saying words, right? You need to actually believe in some sense that you're communing with God. And try as I might, I cannot muster that kind of that kind of even like temporary trial belief, because I don't believe that it's true.
Not even
So,
not even
I
a
think-
God, if you're real, reveal yourself. If you're real, reveal yourself to me. Jesus, if you're real, reveal yourself to
sure.
me, and I'm open to
Yeah,
it.
that's
And
fine.
then you start walking it out. Like you've never that you can't even bring yourself to do that. Is what I'm asking you.
Again, it depends what you mean by walking it out, because I have
Going to
been
church, reading, praying, confession. Like I'm just giving you the
I've been to
basics of the
church.
Christian.
Ruslan's like, if you just walk it out for 90 days, then you're definitely going to see a difference in your life. Like, it's obvious. If you do these disciplines, you're going to see growth in your spiritual life and probably feel closer to God. And then Alex is like, I've done that. I've been to church. And I've heard before that Alex has gone to church, and I think that's amazing. I think he likes going to church. Or obviously, there's a difference between just going through the motions and actually doing it because you want to, doing it because you love God, doing it because you want to experience God more, and you want to get to know God more.
I'm gonna
Depends-
pretend to
depends
be
what you mean
Christian.
as a practice, because also thou shalt not put thy Lord to the test. Like, it starts to feel like somebody recommended to me once that you should sort of film it. You should like I had this idea. I was like, I could do a video where I like live as a Christian for like a week or a month or something, and just sort of vlog how it affects my life. It could be interesting.
Yeah.
But I suddenly
I think
realized
I
the
think
moment
90
you're
days will
filming
take.
it, the moment you're filming it, the moment you're doing it like with this scientific motivation, it kind of undermines it, because your motives are off. I think that you need to come to Christ because you want to and think that it's the right thing to do, not because you just like I think it's very difficult to just entertain things that you can't think are true. You can entertain them in the sense that they might be true, and you say, well, God, if you're there, then I hope you're listening to me, but you can't actually think you're like praying to God. And so something, depending on what you mean by prayer, it kind of becomes conceptually impossible. It's possible to go to church, but it's not possible to experience communion. I mean, Catholics, for example, wouldn't even like want you to go up because you're not a Catholic. But even if you were like in some church which allowed you to partake in the memorial, like I'm like, well, I don't believe that this happened. I don't believe that this is doing this. I don't believe, like, you can go through the motions, but it almost feels actually kind of offensive to do that, because you're like, because you're just doing a parody.
Yeah, we'll give you a
Giving
pass.
the
Go through the
outward
motions.
There's nothing wrong, though, with checking it out, though. There's nothing wrong with trying to experience God's love. There's nothing wrong with seeking him instead of just being like, well, since I don't believe it in the first place, then I'm not going to even try. I think that's a problem as well.
So seriously, I mean, say that like I probably haven't to the extent that you would feel content that I've tried my best, but it's not like I'm just been sitting around twiddling my thumbs all these years. But also the point to bring up is that I hear the same kind of testimony from all kinds of people about all kinds of things. I felt the same way as a vegan. You will never look back. Like, I cannot believe that I was eating meat. Like, this is unbelievable. I'm never going to, like, the rest of my life will be dedicated to this. And then, well, maybe not. I hear Muslims say the same thing. Like, bro, you just got it. Like, you've just got to try it, man. I think
veganism is kind of like a religion.
to come into masjid, bro, you'd be like, oh man, you don't even know, like, you'd be the greatest Muslim. Like, it's like, yeah, maybe that's true. Like, maybe that's actually true. And I actually think that if I were to start going to masjid and I started to hang out with Muslim circles and grow out my beard and all this kind of stuff, I'd probably start thinking, yeah, man, like, okay, this is kind of cool. I'm into this, because like the people that you're with and the actions that you participate in just define the person that you are. Show me your friends and I'll show you the man. That's the idea.
Sure.
And so I don't think there's anything special about Christianity in that case. So, given my special interest in Christianity, it makes sense for me to sort of try that in particular. But like in my position as like as a non-believer and a non-resistant non-believer, I should be giving about as much time to any other world religion or ideology.
I feel like you've conceded that Christianity is superior to other religions, though, in some sense. Like, just in your explanation for why the resurrection is true, it seems like you know that there is at least a mystery there that might be onto something. So
it kind of depends what you mean.
If it is superior or better or adds more net positive than other religions, and maybe you're not saying this, but like the Christian doesn't experience doubt. The Christian doesn't experience dry patches of their faith. The Christian doesn't have certainty on all these things. Like, we're all working out our salvation with fear and trembling.
I mean, the Christian does have doubt, right? You mean the Christian
yeah.
does.
Sorry, I misspoke. Thank you. Yeah, we wrestle as well. Like, we all wrestle through these things. And what I'm not saying is like
God, yeah.
We who wrestle with God. What I'm not saying is check your brain out, because I saw Derek from Myth Vision always stirring the pot in here. We're not saying check your brain out and just follow your heart. I'm saying it's and both. I'm saying it's you walk you walk it out, and as I walk it out, the more the faith grows. The more I practice, the more it grows. The more I practice, the more it grows. That is what I was getting to. But if you're like, hey, I have on this level, and I can't bring myself to prayer, I understand, and I would say that sounds like people just need to continue praying for you. You know what I mean? I think people need to continue praying for you, and I genuinely believe that if you wanted Jesus to reveal himself to you and you asked, I think he would. Now I think that would be complicated for you, but maybe it wouldn't. You know, I don't know what that looks like. So this is me.
People are indeed welcome to keep praying for me. I do wish
Well,
they'd stop
we will.
putting their hands on me while they do it. Though.
You don't like
That's a
that part?
little,
That's funny. Yeah, I'm definitely laying on hands, but if they don't want me to, I understand. I've had opportunities to pray for people, like if homeless people come up to me and they ask for food or something, and I'll go get them food, but I always offer to pray for them. I prayed for this man once, and I laid my hands on him, and he's like, that prayer meant more than the food that you gave me. And praying personally for someone, like when they hear you pray for them, something really special about that. I don't know if it's just feelings or emotion, but like, or if it's just obviously God working in their life. That's definitely a real thing. And I think when you really seek God, you will find him. But you got to be willing to hear his voice. And I do feel like genuinely Alex O'Connor is seeking God probably more than a lot of even just cultural Christian people. He's doing his due diligence. He's reading the Bible. He's doing a lot of different things, more than a lot of just cultural Christians are, which is sad for Christians, but great for Alex. So I'm happy about that.
Respect that.
Okay.
That's
Zach doesn't
just
like
sort
that.
of-
That's amazing. So I pray that Alex O'Connor really seeks to know Jesus more and comes to know him. And he needs to experience the love of Jesus. He needs to experience God in a level that will completely transform his life, something that's undeniable. Matthew 28-29 says, Then Jesus said, Come to me, all who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart. You will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Amen. So guys, I encourage you to go to Jesus today. You can see that. You can cast all of your cares on him, for he cares for you. He even cares for the sparrows that fall on the floor. I know Alex loves and cares so much for animals and suffering. And the Bible even talks so much about the care for even the animals, even the birds that fall on the floor. So guys, I encourage you to go to Jesus today. Know that he loves you and he's longing to have a relationship with you. It will be the best decision you can ever make. In the description below, you will be able to click a link to help you decide to follow Jesus for the first time. Guys, it will be the best decision you could ever make.